Good afternoon to learned faculty members and researchers across the nation. Most respected Satyaprakash sir, who is a director of the institute, and Dr. Deepika madam, and also the linking between my own good friend Dr. Ramakrishna from Bangalore. So with all this little note, I'll directly get into the session and give me a few seconds to share my presentation. I think, can you allow me to share my presentation, please?
Sir, you can share the slides, sir.
Yeah. I just got it. So thanks a lot for inviting me and for this wonderful session. And thanks to Dr. The director, Satyaprasad sir, for very clearly giving given the aspects of publishing a research article in a leading or quality journals like CAR listed or ABDC or Scopus Index. So it was an enlightening session, and probably I'll just continue from his what do you call it as interaction with you all. And especially I'm going to look on, because whenever we look into the research article, most importantly, we normally get into primary survey and data analytics. So I've just fine-tuned my discussion today on primary survey and data analytics for publications of research articles. So if you get into that little, what do you call it as the profile, research profile of mine, and that is my 23rd what do you call it as event as far as in relation to scientific research and data analytics and projects. And this is my 8th online program on scientific research and data analytics. So with this little 18 years of knowledge, I'm just going to share with you that how you can prepare what you call as a quality research article for global publications. So when you look into this and today's session, right, I have divided it into 3 components. One, as Sarah was saying, that publication that Sarah has taken up very clearly, but I need to work on what is research article. So there are so many kind of articles, and we are going to deal today with research article. The other side, to understand that, we need to know what is scientific research and we need to know what is data analytics. That is what Director Sir was very clearly saying, that unless otherwise the person who is preparing, the researcher who is preparing a research article is well versed in data analytics, we can prepare or we can submit a wonderful quality research paper for publication in the international arena. With this little note, let me take you within few minutes. Let me take you what is scientific research. When you want to understand what is scientific research, we need to understand what is scientific research, what is scientific approach, and what is scientific research process. And most importantly, researching of information. So any research if you want to do. So my humble thing is that I want to make it very clear. I'm not going to be more expertized on that. I'm going to just give you in a lucid way that each and every one of us can end up the session will be in what you call as persuaded to write research articles. That's an ultimate aim that I'm just planning today. And when we look into that, any research should be researching of information or finding new things. So ultimately, like any research, supposed to be novel. Even in the previous session, a person was asking about. So any research supposed to be novel, and we need to find that. And beyond that, we need to find the research has to focus on finding facts. That is more important. So we need to find facts, what is happening today, even in COVID-19, still we are unaware how it is getting spread. So every day things are getting changed. We need to find a lot of things on it. And finding the problem, even finding a problem itself is the research. And finding solution to a problem is another part of the research. So that is also what we call it as in general research. Research, finding new things, fact-finding process, identifying the problem, finding solution to this problem. And if you look into this, if you do by your own, it is called as rule of thumb. When we do research by rule of thumb, taking to universalization or globalization is very difficult. So you need to do research in a scientific and systematic way. So ultimately, scientific method and scientific approach is required. When you look into that scientific approach, in general, if you take in any research methodology, there'll be n number of what you call it as research dimensions are there. In my opinion, it is only 2 ultimately when you look into management, commerce, or economics or social science researchers. One is descriptive research, the other one is analytical research. So anything which you are going to present what exactly it is, then it is called as describing descriptive research. If you are going to put your own opinion, your own idea, your own perception, your own thinking, your own what you call as bluntness, so ultimately it is called as analytical research, or we call it as empirical research. So there is another dimension to look in. One is qualitative research and quantitative research. So anything which is conceptual, anything which you are going to do with verbality, when understanding or observation, then it is qualitative research. Anything which you are going to find out with numerical data and understanding and using scientific tools, then it is called as quantitative research. But beyond all this broader research, there is another thing which normally we use in management is called as case study, which means that if you are going to do research with one single unit, one single person, or one group of unit, or one institution, or one industry, or one economy, if your sample is going to be one or one unit, then it is called as case study. In the case study, we can have descriptive and analytical, we can have qualitative and quantitative. With this note, let me move on that what is a normal research process we normally follow. So in my opinion, there are 10 steps involved. Even in any material, if you see that they'll be giving 5 or 6, but practically speaking, there are 10 steps involved. Defining the research problem, that you need to find out a research problem which is novel, which is useful, and that we need to make it. Then after finding the research problem, you need to draft the objectives, and we need to build the hypothesis that we are going to look in today. And then we have to design the research, or we need to design the survey if you are going for a primary survey. That is what is called as methodology. Once it is ready, then you need to go for data collection. So once you go for a data collection, then comes the analytical part. So we need to analyze the data, and then we need to start writing our reports, either for a thesis or for a dissertation or for an article or for a presentation. So anything for that matter, depending on the guidelines, we need to make it. And the 7th step is submission for evaluation. Always whenever we do anything, we need to submit for evaluation. Then only we will understand what is the pitfalls in our research article or research domain. And then we need to go for a wider audience. We need to go for a presentation with the wider audience in a seminar or a conference. Then you need to get their opinions and suggestions and their critics. Based on that, we need to rewrite our article. Then we need to send it to publications. So this is where we need to, and once you send it to the publication, it reaches the global audience, because today everything goes online. So there is no restriction that there is a national level or international level. Only in print journal today, in my opinion, there is a national level and international level journals. But in online journals, I don't think so. There is a restriction. Anything you put it online, it crosses to every country. So ultimately, anything in online is considered to be international. It's considered to be global. We cannot restrict anything to local or national or international. That is my personal opinion, which we need to transform tomorrow. And once the publication reaches, you will be getting a lot of inputs. You'll be referred, you'll be cited, you'll be credited, you will be suggested. So when you come all those, we need to stop research. As our director said, we need to go for further research. So it's doing a research. It's not a one step or a one single plan. It's a systematic and continuous plan that it will rotate itself. We start again further research. Again we go for the first step, and it goes on. Why I explained this today? Because you need to understand where the publication comes into. So it is a 9th step, in my opinion. It is a 9th step that the publication comes into. So we need to walk all those 8 steps when you want to go for publication. So with this little note, research for publication, we'll narrow down, because I don't want to take much of your time, because the time limit is very less. Maybe hardly we have 1 hour 15 minutes. So we'll focus more onto the content what the director sir is expecting us to go ahead. So research for publication. If you look into the research for publication in a practical sense, I'm telling you, not in a theoretical idea, not referring from any material as such. So based on my out of 18 years of research experience and the review of literature and the articles which I have referred, in my opinion, any research can be qualitative research. Any research can be quantitative, and any research which you are going to send to a publication can be a mixed model. You can have a qualitative information as well as quantitative information. When it goes for qualitative data or qualitative research, normally those from there, if you generate a research article, that article is called as conceptual article, where we will have verbality of information, where we have pictures, where we have models, where we have what you call as conceptual clarity and conceptual models, conceptual theories, conceptual definition, conceptual principles, which we normally develop from our own idea, which which we call it as a conceptual article. And when you put any data into that, when you collect some data, right, primary or a secondary in nature, then it becomes an analytical article, or we call that in the international arena, in the publication division, as empirical article. So any research article can be divided into two. One is conceptual article, the other one is empirical article. But when it goes to publication in science and social sciences, we normally have both, which is called as mixed model. We use qualitative analysis as well as quantitative data analytical tools. Then it is normally called as empirical article. So end of the day, as Sir was saying, that it is very challenging to publish conceptual article, but it is very easy to publish empirical article, in my opinion. Because today the world of research is moving from quantitative analytical articles to qualitative analytical articles. Writing an article of a newness is very, very difficult conceptually. For example, in my research area is logistics science. When I did my PhD, I was looking around. In 1930, I found an article in Harvard Business Review, which was talking about a word called as logistics, from physical distribution to logistics. That is where I grabbed from that. From there, I started my research. So conceptual articles are normally published in a leading Harvard Business Reviews and many indexed journals, where it is very difficult to write, in my opinion. But empirical articles, which we can create, because we can collect data and we can write it, and there are a lot of what you call as things are there. So it doesn't mind, in my opinion, whether you write a conceptual article or empirical article. But in today's context, the global publication domain looks for an empirical article rather than a conceptual article. Still, you can write it. So this is what my opinion. When we go over and so narrow down into empirical article, as our director sir was saying, that mostly empirical articles are accepted for publication. So in general, it is in publication, we call it as in a domain, we call it as an empirical article. But when you go for a presentation, we call it as a research paper. That is a simple difference, but both are less same. So when we go for that, we normally collect, when you want to go for an empirical article, we need to have a numerical data. We need to have a what you call as voluminous of data or required data. So in that angle, there are two kinds of data we have. One is primary data. When the data is not available to support our research, what you call it as issue, or the objectives of the research objectives or research hypothesis, then we need to collect data from our own self, from the primary, what you call it as survey, or from the samples, which we need to, for example, COVID, still we need to collect data from different people. So even though we have certain data in a secondary angle, but we need to go to the ground and we need to collect data. So that is what we need to work on. And there is another set of data which is called a secondary data, where the already published data are available from different authenticated sources. It may be a government source or a non-governmental sources or a private agency or a databases. We have n number of agencies for that, where we have a secondary data. So we can make a best example, stock market data, the economic indicators like crude oil prices, or what we call as the bullion prices, derivatives market. So n number of markets are money market or capital market in business. So economy data, or if you go back to IMF and World Bank, they are coming out so much of reports. So ultimately what happens, secondary data are available in huge. So we can make analysis on secondary data, and even we can do research articles with both secondary data and primary data, which has a high, what you call as acceptance in the journals. So we can do in that angle, we can go ahead. But today we are going to restrict ourselves with primary data. That is what expected from my side. So we are not moving on to secondary data. When you want to move on to secondary data, there are so many systematic and scientific tools are available. Normally, maybe in a nutshell, I'll give you, when you go for a secondary data, we normally go with, there are three set of data we have. One is panel data, time series data, and cross-sectional data, which we have a lot of packages, software packages to analyze EUs, econometric tools, mathematical tools, and statistical tools are available, where we can analyze, build models with ARIMA and all those tabs for secondary data. My focus is today on primary survey, because whenever we go with the primary data, we can bring innovation into our what you call as deliberation or research aspects, which we are going to concentrate on our research article, because the research the publication arena looks, or the knowledge domain in the research looks an innovation in our contribution. That is what Sarah was focusing for last 2 hours. So when we look into the primary survey, in my opinion, whatever we have discussed in the invitation, as per that, I'll be concentrating on how to prepare a questionnaire, because I'm skipping out the methodology, like who is your population, who is your sample, what is the sample size, what is the sampling technique which to be used, but I'm moving on directly to data collection instruments. So when we go for a primary survey, deciding on all those methodology, experts you would have understood, I'm going to minutely look on for next 45 minutes on the first one is questionnaire development or preparation. Number two, how to validate and make a reliability analysis on the content of the questionnaire, which is more important before going for a major survey, and how to build a hypothesis based on the objectives or the data questions, and how to test with the data, which we call as data analytics. These are the four things which we are going to concentrate. By want of time, I'm going to practically make you to the extent how far we can go today, we can make it. Otherwise, we'll meet in the next platform to discuss on various data analytical tools later. So with this note, let me move on to the first component of discussion today, that is questionnaire preparation. When you want to go for, because whenever we want to go for a data collection, we need to have a data collection tool. Since the invite was mentioning as questionnaire, I've used the word questionnaire, but it has a different meaning. So when you want to go for a data collection tool in a primary, what you call as through a primary survey for any kind of research or a business research or any kind of what you call as objectives, these are some of the things which we need to understand. So usually questionnaire is called as data collection tool. In practical sense, there are two words or jargons which are used. One is questionnaire, the other one is interview schedule. So it's a very simple thing. Data collection tool is a document carries with the multiple number of questions to be answered by the respondents based on the what you call as our objectives and our hypotheses in mind. So if you look into that angle, if you look into that research questions, so if you prepare the statement in a systematic way and in a structured way, which I'm going to show you in a structured way, then if the respondent is going to fill by themselves, then it is questionnaire. So collection of questions, a research question is what is called as questionnaire, and if the respondent is going to fill by themselves by the researcher giving the questionnaire to them, then it's called as questionnaire. And if the respondent is unable to fill the questionnaire, if their understanding is low, or if they require additional information to fill it, and if they may not be, for example, language barrier, understanding barrier, if they have, then it is called as interview schedule, because a researcher makes an interview and they fill that schedule, they fill that data collection tool, that we call as interview schedule. In a concise format, we look in. But today's scenario, both interview schedule and the questionnaire looks the same, but even the format is different. We are going to concentrate on questionnaire preparation. When you want to concentrate on questionnaire preparation, please understand that there are two set of questions we can have. One is called as open-ended questions. The other one is closed-ended questions. Open-ended questions in the sense you can ask a question like what we ask our own students in the exams, what students we used to write. They'll ask a general question and there'll be a space where we need to write, express ourselves, our own words, our own what you call constructs that we have to make it. That is open-ended questions. The option is given to the respondents to write whatever they think. There is no any restrictions. But closed-ended questions, there is a restriction is given in the sense like the options of the answers also will be decided, prepared based on the review of literature and expert opinion by the researchers, and we will be making it. And when you look into the closed-ended, which we now open-ended, we normally call as subjective questions. Closed-ended, we normally call as objective questions. When you go for a closed-ended, there are two different dimensions we have. One is called as diacritic answer, in the sense like if you are asking a question, then if they say yes, for example, do this webinar, they'll be giving yes or no. Then ultimately you write either you click yes or you answer no. It is called as diacritic answers in the questionnaire. And when you go for a closed-ended, there's another option called as multiple choice questions. For example, I can ask you how far you like this seminar. Maybe I can give answers. Excellent, good, bad, not excellent. So you can give any choices, any answers for that. Then ultimately it is a multiple choice answers. Beyond these questions, there is another dimension to look in, which is called as scaled data or unscaled data. Scaled questions, unscaled questions. For example, if whatever we have discussed till now, it is an unscaled. There is no stipulated restriction to understand. So yes or no, it's a diacritic answer, so where you will be given only one choice. And when you go for a multiple choice, you have it, but it is not on a scale. It is not on a systematic way of collecting your responses. In that angle, scaled data comes into picture. There are n number of scales which we have. A very popular scale which we normally use it is Likert scale, and normally we use 3-point scale, 5-point scale, 7-point scale, 9-point scale, 11-point scale. For example, if you are going to find out how far this seminar, the webinar, on your satisfaction level of the content, then you can give high, low, moderate. So 3-point scale, the what you call it as the respondents are able to understand, and they can make it. Maybe you can extend that to 5-point scale, very high, high, moderate, low, very low. Such kind of things also can be made. So maybe now we will take one questionnaire and we try to understand and how it works on. Are you able to see the Word file, please? Anyone respond to me?
Sir, it is not visible, sir.
Yeah, I'll come back. So I have to share that again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hope now it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
so with this little questionnaire, even with this one single page, we can complete the entire PhD. We can write n number of research articles for your information. I just tell you how to do that. So this is a questionnaire which I want to make it like, let us understand, we'll take a case. So we want to understand most of you are teachers. So we want to understand the student-teacher relationship in schools. So how to understand that? So to understand, if your research title, as Sarah was saying, no, it should be like a river. It should flow like a water in a river. So first we need to decide the title, then we need to decide the objectives, then we need to decide the hypothesis, then we need to decide the data questionnaire, then we need to collect the data, then we need to analyze it, then we need to present it, and we need to convert it as a research article. This is a water flow what Sarah was expecting. So student-teacher relationship in schools. And this questionnaire, our sample is going to be teachers. How teachers maintain student-teacher relationship in schools. If you look into this, the entire questionnaire can be divided into two parts. The first part is the demographic factors or the personal details of the respondents. If you are going to the teacher, so age group, gender, education, occupation, marital status, annual income, annual family income, locality, work experience. So these 9 are what you call as, for example, here we can say these are multiple choice unscaled questionnaires. Got it? So these 9 are multiple choices, closed end, unscaled questionnaires. Name and address is the open question. So you will be writing here. But these 1 to 9 is an unscaled question. Then how to create a scaled question? So with this, for example, with this student-teacher relationship, what I can understand, maybe we can create an objective. For example, to identify the factors influencing student-teacher relationship. And the second objective we can have to identify the most influencing factor on student-teacher relationship. If you keep these two objectives, to identify the factors influencing student-teacher relationship as one objective for this research, and number 2, to identify the factors most influencing factor on the student-teacher relationship. If you keep these two objectives, then we need to find out those statements, those things which can bring out the what you call as the deliberation or the information or data on the student-teacher relationship. For that, we need to go and prepare an instrument. We need to prepare a data instrument. This is what is called as data instrument. And this, right, it's a scaled data instrument. What I have is this here, I have 15 statements. 15 statements. In technically, we call it as constructs. 15 items, 15 constructs, or in more technically in statistical angle, in analytical angle, we call it as variables. So I have 15 variables here, which I have grabbed. So what we can do is, these 15 variables, it has been structured on 5-point scale. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So when you make these 15, what you call as items or a construct or a variable or a statements, this I share an affectionate, one example I'll give you, I share an affectionate warm relationship with this child? So as a teacher, you can answer. If you are sharing that warm relationship, affection towards your students, you can give strongly agree. Somebody may say, no, 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 I keep them away. So strongly disagree. No, I can. So neutral, agree, disagree. So any answer you will be giving it. So like that 15 statements, all these 15 statements, there are two ways to make this. One, you can adopt a proven instrument, or you can create these statements focusing on your research title and objectives, right? And that from two sources. One from review of literature. In this area, student-teacher relationship, STR, if you are going to collect the literature, right? From there, you can generate, or you can discuss with the experts in this area, educationists in this area, teachers in this area, and also you can discuss your probable samples, probable respondents. So from three sources, you can discuss, you can work on, and you can bring these statements. Once you write these statements, we need to understand whether these statements are relevant. For example, this I have not reviewed, I have adopted. I'll show you that also, that where I have adopted this questionnaire. This is a question, what you call as the questionnaire which adopted from Robert C. Pianta, who is an educationist who has done a research work on student-teacher relationship scale. He has developed the scale. So these 16 from Pianta University of Virginia. So these 16, what you call it as data were taken, and just for an what you call it as acknowledging to Robert C. Pianta's work. So we have just considered for our understanding for this what you call as seminar. I mean the webinar. Okay. So with this note, we'll move on to that. So this questionnaire is prepared. Now the biggest challenge we have is whether this instrument is reliable or whether it is valid. Whatever statement as a researcher we have written, whether these things are valid, that we need to understand. For that, we need to go for the next step. So I think now you understood how to develop a questionnaire. So the next step which we can go ahead. So we have just data collection tool, questionnaire, and we have understood open-ended questions. Is it visible, madam? Can anyone guide me?
Sir, you can share, sir. It is not visible.
Okay. Please adjust with me here and there because nothing is there. I'm just sharing the number of pages to make you more clarity on it.
Fine, sir. Not a problem with that.
Yeah. The more thing is that we need to understand clearly. That's an ultimate aim of making it.
Yes, sir. That's true.
So is it visible now, madam?
Not yet, sir. I think it's loading.
Okay. Is it okay now?
No, sir. Still it's loading, I believe.
One second.
Yes, sir.
I think now it's visible, right?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we have understood how to prepare a questionnaire in a practical way. Okay. So part A, part B, open-ended question, closed-ended question, scale the data, and scale the data. So only two objectives we have for our research. One is to identify the factors influencing student-teacher relationship. Number two, to identify the most influencing factor on the student-teacher relationship. With this little example, we'll move on. So when we go ahead with that, the next step is that we need to validate and we need to find out the reliability of our data which we are collected. So in that angle, if you look into this, normally when you go for a validity, it is nothing but finding out the trueness and realness of the statement which we have in relation to our research. That is what is called as validity. Whether it is valid, whether the item which I brought in is valid or not, and which we want to go for it. The simple practical ways, there are n number of tools has come in, but a simple basic thing which we can do it is content and construct validity. So we have constructed 15 variables, right? And how to find out it is valid or not? How to do that? It is very simple, in my opinion. What I tell you is that prepare that statements. Again, I have to share it. I'll just make it. And when you go for a validity, when you go for a reliability, we need to understand whether those data which you are going to collect it from a reliable sources or authenticated sources. In the sense, whether you are going to collect from a right person. For example, you have to, in this case, our sample is teachers. So we need to go and collect the teachers, not university teachers. We have narrowed down to the school teachers. So we need to collect from the school teachers. If you are going to collect from a university teacher or a college teacher, maybe our reliability of data may not be there, because our intention is to find out from the student-teacher relationship from the school teachers, not from a college or university or higher education teacher. So in that angle, we need to support, we need to find out whether it is reliable. That we need to go ahead. So first we need to make validity of that constructed scale, and then we need to go for reliability analysis. So validity can be done manually, and reliability can be done with SPSS, which I'll show you for in the what you call as future within few minutes, right? I will move on to this. So when you want to go for reliability or validity, so we need to check out with this. It is visible now?
No, sir. Just the screen is visible. You need to open, I believe, sir. Validity.
Yeah. In each page, I have to open it, then only it is visible. So is it shared now?
No, sir. Not yet.
Now, are you able to see the Word file?
No, sir. It is not yet opened. Just
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, now you will be seeing, I suppose. Yeah. So I think now it's visible.
Yes, sir. Now it's visible. Questionnaire is visible.
So when you go for validity, it's very simple. Now you see we have made 15 statements, right? I share an affectionate warm relationship with this child. This child comes to me for selecting a right choices of decision. So these statements, what we can do is, instead of having a scale, you should have expert 1, expert 2, expert 3. You have to prepare. Once your questionnaire is ready, you have to go to the scale and you have to prepare. Then you have to find minimum 3 experts in that area, and you have to give these questions to them and ask them to answer yes or no, whether this statement is relevant to that research objective. So what the expert 1 will give, so they will give yes or no, like that. Expert 2, expert 3. So once you collect the 3 and you record it for the first item, first variable, first construct, if the expert 1 has given yes, expert 2 has given yes, expert 3 has given yes, you can retain this item. And if any one expert has given no and another 2 expert has given yes, then you can retain the statement. If suppose all the experts in this area is giving no, then you have to reject it point blankly, because that is an expert opinion. Then it will come 14 variables, then it will come 13 variables. With that we can move on. For example, in my PhD thesis, I have identified 52 variables to form a scale. By looking into this, by getting into the experts, I have narrowed down to 42. Then further doing a reliability analysis, I have narrowed down to 30. So that is how we need to make it. Going back, so I think I have made you understood how to prepare a questionnaire, how to go for validating your data. Now we have to find out whether this questionnaire is reliable or not with the help of reliability analysis with SPSS, with little discussion in between. Then we'll move on. Okay. So looking into that, so I think now it is very clear that we have developed a questionnaire. I think you are with me, and we have validated the questionnaire. Reliability analysis we will be doing very soon. And most important is this. How to frame hypothesis based on the research and how to test the hypothesis. And this, out of my own little experience, I have prepared this matrix, 4x2 matrix, to build hypothesis framing. So please very keenly observe it. you can understand, you can do n number of things. This one page will give you a better research ability for publication. See, in the left side, I have given focus of the objectives. As Sarah was saying that we need to focus whenever we want to build a research objective, it should be focused on the title. Whenever we build a hypothesis, it should be focused on the objectives. Okay, hypotheses are the predetermined answer for an objective. For example, these number of factors will influence. This is the most influencing factor. If you want to find out, then we need to go for hypothesis testing, hypothesis framing. That is what is expected. The other side is researchability of objectives. Researchability of objectives. Because we cannot find an objective which is not researchable objectives. So we need to frame, we cannot go for a descriptive objective. For a descriptive objective, we cannot have hypothesis framing. We will be in a position, we will not be in a position to frame it. It should be a researchable objective, and we need to have what is the focus of the objective. If you look into that, in my opinion, look into these two. Okay, these two, see, if you are going to compare two variables, for example, in our questionnaire, if you take it, for example, we have a gender, male and female, gender. And the other side, affectionate. You have taken the first variable, affectionate, right? So when you want to know whether the gender and the affectionate, the research variable and the demographic variable, right? The independent variable, demographic variable, independent variable, the what you call as the gender and the dependent variable, right? That is called as the affection. So whether the affection and the gender has any association, that we can make it out, or whether the female and the male teachers has any differences on that affection, that also we can find. So there are only, in any research, there will be only two dimensions of researchability of objectives. Either you will be finding out the association of variables. Please understand, association of items, association of variables. And the other thing is that difference of groups on a variable. Difference of groups on a variable. These are the two things which we normally do, right? And when it comes to any research, in my opinion, only there are four focuses we have. One is, you will be identifying whether there is a presence between these two variables, gender and the, what you call it as, the affectionate as a research variable, whether it has any presence. That means yes or no will be our result. Whether there is, for example, let us keep it a simple one. We have two friends, right? We want to find out whether the two friends are, how they are friends. What is the association? The second thing, if you have an enemy, then you will find out what is the difference between dislikers, difference between them, right? So ultimately presence, we can identify the presence, yes or no. Number two, we can identify the directions. If it is yes, on what direction they move, whether their thinking moves in the same direction on the friendship, or they move differently. So we will find out the directions. And the other thing is that if the direction exists, direction is there, then on what extent they move. For example, if the first person thinks for one, the second person proportionately thinks for double of the first person. So extension, what extension they influence, that we can find out. And the fourth one is, if you know that extension, what will be the future? We can predict. So presence, that is existence, presence, direction, extension, and prediction we can have. And in that, we can have association differences. With this, there are what you call as 8 hypothesis dimension we can build. If you want to find out the association between two, that means presence of association is one dimension of hypothesis. Presence of differences is another dimension. Direction of association, direction of differences, extension of association, extension of differences, prediction of association, prediction of differences. So these are the 8 hypotheses we can build. Based on that, there are tools for every for example, presence of association. One example I'll give you. There is a statistical tools available which is called the chi-square test. When you apply chi-square test, here the objective of the chi-square test, is to find out the association between two variables, presence of association between two variables. If you are going to build this hypothesis, we can use a statistical tool. If you are going to find out the differences, presence of differences, you can use t-test or ANOVA. If you are going to find out the direction of association, direction of difference of the direction of differences, you can use correlation test. If you are going to find out extension of association or prediction of association, we can use regression, multiple regression or binary regression. And if you are going to even SEM, structural equation modeling, or you can use neural network analysis. If you are going to find out the extension of differences or prediction of differences, then you can use discriminant analysis or MANOVA, multiple analysis of variance. What I suggested, hypothesis I told you, there are tools available. For example, if a fan is getting repaired, I can do with correction with my repairing with my hand, but it will not be possible, right? We need to have a specific specific tool to repair. So that is what statistical tools comes into picture. One example I'll tell you to move on to the next understanding. If you go for a presence of association, taking the same example, we have taken two, right? Gender and the affection, the first variable. So how to build the hypothesis? There is no significant association between gender and affection on the student-teacher relationship. The hypothesis is framed. Then we can collect the data. We can use chi-square and do it, right? In the same way, if you go for differences, right? There is no significant differences between the genders, male and female, on is important, on the affectionate. That is for the hypothesis of the differential statistics hypothesis for the t-test. So now we have understood how to build hypothesis for an association-oriented hypothesis of between the variables, and we have understood how to frame the hypothesis for differences of between the groups on a variable. So here, in my opinion, when you write drafting very clearly, when you are going to find out the association between two variables, you write and in between two variables. When you are going to write difference of groups on a variable, so you write on there very clearly. So if with this one slide, you can practically learn entire hypothesis framing. I think I have made it, right? For example, for chi-square, we can build a hypothesis. Just now I told, for correlation, we can frame hypothesis. For regression, we can build hypothesis. So if based on this, what is your expectation? If you are going, for example, now we decided not to identify the factors influencing. What I can do here, I should use the extension most influencing. So I can use multiple regression analysis to find out my research objective. With this note, moving on to the data analytics in a nutshell. Okay, so data analytics, normally we use it for the fourth final items. Whatever time permits, we'll make an analysis with the SPSS now. So data analytics, why we need to go for data analytics? As our director said, it should describe facts, data to describe the facts, to detect patterns, to develop explanations, and to test the hypothesis. That is what I have given an intro. And all these things are just what you call as general thing. It should be systematic, it should be scientific. So when you go for a data analytics, the need for application of statistical tools. Why we need to go for data analytics? Why that research articles are looking for data analytics? So if we look into that, these are data, raw data. Can you tell me which color, whether it is a green is more, whether the red is more, whether the yellow is more, whether the thing is more? We cannot. So for that, we need to go for a next step called as sorting out the data. When you sort out the data, we can understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors or 8 colors are there in that. So maybe we can say only 8 colors, 8, but we cannot say which one is higher. For example, looking into this, yellow looks higher. For that, we need to go for arrangement of data. When you keep it separately, arrangement of data, then you see yellow is looking higher because roughly we have arranged. But when you use statistical tools, you will come to really understand that which is higher, which is lower. For that, we need to present visually. If you go and present visually with your what you call a simple tabulation and percentage analysis, or with the chart, we can understand. We were thinking that yellow is more. Now you see the red is higher and the ash, nowhere ash is visible, but ash is low. So this is the purpose why we use statistical tools in a simple understanding. And when we look into the data as such, based on your research title, based on your objectives, based on your hypothesis, you have framed your what you call it as the questionnaire with the scaled and unscaled data. Now we need to understand how to analyze the data in the perspective of statistical tools, data analytics. So if you are going to take only one variable for analyzing it, then it is called as univariate data analytics. If you are going to take two variables, just now we were discussing with two variables, right? What you call as the research variable and demographic variable, the independent variable and dependent variable. So if you are going to do two variables and if you are going to analyze the data and test the hypothesis, then it is called as bivariate analytics. And the third one is multivariate. If you are going to use a third variable into this, that means three or more than two variables at a single time, then it is called as multivariate data analytics. Okay, I think hope it's clear. And looking to this in a nutshell, I'm going to give it in one shot that there is no need to do data analytics manually now. 20 years before, people are doing, I used to hear my professor, they used to collect the data, put it in a bigger chart, and they used to walk around on the sheets and do it, analysis, coding and everything. But now we have all systems to go on. So if you look into that, there are n number of software packages available, starting from MS Excel to SPSS, SPSS Amos, Lizrel, Visual PLS, G-Power, Grittle, GViews, MATLAB, Vega, Strata, SAS, R, Chabelo, Python. So there are n number of companies. It is nothing but almost like all statisticians and mathematicians is having their models. Formulas are there. Purpose is there to analyze the data for our objective. But n number of companies are coming out with different software packages. In my personal opinion, if you know SPSS and SPSS Amos in management, we can complete primary data, even secondary data. If you have eViews knowledge, we can do secondary data also. If you want to learn further, new companies will come with new data collection. The software, and they are doing it. In the other way around, if you want to come out for any research article or in a PhD thesis, the first and foremost step which we need to do is data tabulation and chart. We can use percentage analysis, mean score analysis, and ranking. That is what I mean to say univariate tools. You take one data, for example, age, one data, gender, another data, and the affectionate, another data. So if you have that, you can make, here what my humble thing is that if it is a scaled data, you have to use mean score analysis. Further, you can go for ranking. If it is an unscaled data, you should use percentage analysis. Most of us get confused. For example, for that 9 items in the questionnaire, we can use percentage analysis, and we can, if you want, you can rank it also. But it is ranking is meaningless when you go for a percentage analysis. When you go for a scaled data, that 15 items, no, then we can go for a mean score analysis. There we should not go for percentage analysis. Mean score analysis, which I will be showing with the SPSS, and then we can ranking, which we can, out of that 15, we want to know which one is influencing, which one is more. That we can find out even with the simple mean score analysis and ranking. There is no need to go for multiple regression analysis or factor analysis. And if you are going to use two variables, just now we were discussing that if you are going to use that, we can have a hypothesis testing. We have framed the hypothesis. Now with the data, after collecting it, we can test the hypothesis. If you are going to find out the association between two variables, please use chi-square test. If you are going to find out the differences between the samples, differences between the groups, male and female, age group 1, age group 2, then you can use t-test and ANOVA, that we call as bivariate tools. The only difference between t-test and ANOVA is if your groups samples are only 2, then we can use t-test. If your sample is 3, for example, in gender, it is only 2, male and female, then I can apply t-test. If you have a third gender, then it becomes 3 groups. Then if it is a 3 groups, it is not advisable to use t-test because that is not built. That formula algorithm is not built. Formula is not built for that. We need to go for ANOVA, analysis of variance, and that is a simple difference. Then if your variable is more, then we go for ANOVA. So these two popular tools are used for hypothesis testing. Because research never goes with one single variable or two variable. always any research or any research article for an empirical article for a publication goes with more number of research variables. For example, in our case, you see the research variable is 15 variables. And if you put together all the variables in our research in the case, so 9 plus 15, 24 variables we have in that single questionnaire. If you have 24 variables, you cannot stop analyzing your data only with univariate and bivariate and present in a research article, which may not be accepted. In that case only, we need to go for multivariate data analytics. So for example, you have reliability analysis, which is used not at the end of the research. Once your questionnaire is constructed, then we need to check out whether it is reliable with the reliability analysis with the SPSS package. And if you want to identify the factors from the given variables, now we have 15 variables, there are something which are related, then we can go for factor analysis. And if you want to grouping of variables, then we can go for factor analysis. Grouping of respondents based on their responses rather than defined demographic variables. For example, who are motivating teachers, who are non-motivating teachers. If you want to group based on the responses, then we can use cluster analysis. If you want to find out the differences on a variable, then we can use discriminant analysis. And if you want to map the closeness of the respondents and the attributes, research variables, we can go for correspondence analysis. And if you want to find out the direction of the variables, and we can use multiple correlation analysis. If you want to find out the influence of different variables on one dependent variable, then we can use multiple regression analysis. If you have an intervening variable among the independent variables and the dependent variable, if you have an intervening variable, we use structure equation modeling. And if any data is linear data, we use all this. But today, the whole research in the research domain has moved from linear data to non-linear data. So when there is a non-linear data, then we can use neural network analysis. If you want to find out which I used NNA, which I used in my research, which is used in medicine, which is used in science, especially clinical sciences. Neural network analysis, which gauges the minds of the people, which I used in commerce at the first time in 2013 and 14 in the year. That I always claim that it's one of the tools which I used from a science to social science arena. And today many people started using in different dimension, which I used in logistics services. So with this introduction, we'll practically move on. So people, if you know the SPSS, no issues, but those people who are new, maybe within few seconds, I will just make it. SPSS is software, you know, that statistical package for social sciences. If you look into the path of analysis, which you need to know that something or menu based, that means that already our own which we have learned from statistics, mathematics and econometrics, which are programmed and which is menu based, which we can click and we can find out. We need to know why we are clicking, what happens inside the algorithm, and what kind of correlation between objectives and our hypothesis and the formula that we need to understand as a researcher. Anything you do, it will give a result. Garbage in, garbage out. But it's only researcher who has to design. And there are some analysis which can do customized. We can go to the syntax, we can change it, and we can do it. And it's a you can customize anything which you can select and you can make it out. In the SPSS, in Excel, it's an advancement of Excel. I can tell you, there'll be only one view in Excel. Here we have two views. One is variable view and data view. And beyond that, we have an output file. So two files, that is data file and the output file. The result will come in output file. In the data file, we have two views. One is variable view, another data view. Because in Excel, we cannot create a database. So here, the entire questionnaire can be created as a database. Variable we can be created, defined, and then we can enter the data, and with the click of button, we can make analysis. If you know, if the time consuming will be for understanding the statistical tools and correlating with your objective, deciding what statistical tools to be used for what kind of objectives, and entering the data. But remaining, it's a click of a button, we can do it. And that is what I mean to say. Whenever we want to use any statistical packages, please understand, first you need to know what is your research need, what is your objectives. And based on that, you collect the data, input the data. Once you input the data, you need to know what is the SPSS path to make that analysis. So like this, you can write, for example, analyze descriptive statistics, frequency, dialog box, whatever you have to do. I will be showing you now. So once you enter this path, so you have to learn, you have to enter all the data, create the database, enter all the data. After collecting the data, then you need to go for SPSS analysis path. Once you know that, please note down, once you know that, then you click of a button, you will get an output. So output will be there, but as our director sir was saying, interpretation is more important. That is why the difference between when you do a statistician, they will do analysis, but they will not be in a position to interpret in our subject specific. So once you learn or we learn, I did my entire research by myself. I didn't go to any statistician for that. With the help of my research guide, whatever I'm talking today, it is because of him. So I learned everything from him, and interpretation, we can make it out. Then we can go for a report writing, which means if you want to convert as an article, then we can grab whatever in a short form, in a precise form, we can make it out. With this intro, just shown you a case study, right? Student-teacher relationship. And just now I shown you a questionnaire also. We have made 24 variables, 15 variables as a research variables, other 9 variables as a specific data. So with that, what you call it as questionnaire, we need to go for a pilot study. The first thing in any research, in my opinion, you don't directly go for a what you call as final data collection and do it. It will go wrong. There will not be any reliability or any validity. So after checking the validity, you should go for a pilot study. So once you go for a pilot study, then collect the data. For example, if your sample is 30, let me understand for our understanding, and you have to have 10 to 30% of your sample. So if your sample is 30 and you can collect 10, right, minimum 10 samples of that questionnaire, and you have to feed the data and you have to make it. And then we have to go for reliability analysis of that, and I'll be showing you how to do it. Please bear with me. I'm just getting into my SPSS to make you understand. So already I've just collected. I think please learn the basics, how to create a database in SPSS, how to what you call it as, how to enter the data. Okay. So one time I'm moving on to explain you in a simple sense. At least a few analyses we can make it out. At least hypothesis testing we'll learn today. Almost like 15, 20, 25 minutes to go. Madam, can you help me? Is it visible? My SPSS
Yes, sir. Yes,
file,
sir. It's loading, sir. It's loading.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me, please. Yeah, it's getting up. So, yeah, these are data which I have. See what let's make you understand what is my data.
Sir, sorry to disturb. The screen is not visible. The screen is not visible, sir.
Okay, I'll again do it, madam. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Because every time we need to share the other screen, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, now it will be visible. Is it visible now, madam?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Thank you. Thanks for audience for bearing with me. So now you can see here there are two views, right? See my cursor. I'm moving my cursor on the screen. So data view and variable view. For example, we created a questionnaire. Do you remember? I showed you a questionnaire. So you see age, sex, education, occupation, marital status, income, family income, locality, and work experience. So 9 items, and these are the 15 variables I have. And here, whenever you create, please make sure that the values are filled, right? So here you can see here age in our questionnaire. We have seen no one. We are giving values for that. Below 1 year it is 1. 20 to 40 years it is 2. Above 40 years it is 3. Like that you can make it. And when it goes to the, what do you call it as, based on the levels, we can make it out. Here, when you go over that, what do you call it as, the variables, you can see the research variables. There we have given strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Here, what we have to give is, according to the Likert scaling, strongly agree should have 5 and strongly disagree should have 1. So that weightage we need to give it. It is what you call it as, that is where because sometimes people may give strongly agree 5 and strongly agree 1. So that is wrong. So after creating this, what we are doing is we are entering the data. This 1 refers to 1 questionnaire. So you collected 10 and you put 1, 2, 3, 10. So take 1 question and you just try looking into that. Age 2, right? Sex 1. Education, sex 1 means male. So education 4, look into that. So they have given 5, strongly agree, agree, neutral. So like that. So you have to enter all the data. Once you enter all the data, hope you understood now. Because that entering part I'm skipping, so please learn from basic what you call as workshop. So once this data is ready, I'm going to show you whether our questionnaire is reliable or not. First step we need to do. So now we are going for reliability analysis. First we are going for reliability analysis, right? So when you go for reliability analysis, I'm going to tell you the SPSS path. Analyze, right? Scale. Please note down, analyze, scale, reliability analysis. When you go here, in the left side, everything will be available. In the right side, it is just like cooking. For example, everything available in kitchen, but if you want to make what you call as an egg noodles, you need to put a pan and you need to put all those items, then you can prepare an egg noodles, right? For our biryani, so ultimately. So we have to move from left to right to the pan. So if you look into this, we don't want all those age and everything. What we want is, we want only these 15 variables, whether we want to check it out, whether it is reliable, whether all the statements are reliable. So I'm moving these 15 statements here. And here, I need to understand 2 other things. One is item, scale if item deleted. Please click that. That means that I want to know whether this scale is reliable. And if any item is not reliable, if I delete that item, whether this will become reliable. So I'm doing with that. So when you go for it, it will generate alpha, which we call as Cronbach alpha. So Cronbach is a statistician, and they have brought out an alpha score. Based on the scores, we can understand whether that individual item is relevant, reliable, or the entire scale 15 is reliable. So I'm just giving, okay, everything is ready. Taking the data, put in my pan, and I have given the statistics. Okay. So now you get the data output. Now you see we have taken only 10 cases. We have taken number of items 15, and the Cronbach alpha is 0.567. So the first thing you need to, the entire 15 statements, the Cronbach alpha it generates, right? It is called as 0.5. That means 56.7%. Whether we can consider this instrument, that is our question. Usually in the international arena, they look for 0.7%. I purposefully made this one. So above 0.7%, 70%, above 0.7% Cronbach alpha, then only your scale as 15 statement is reliable. Otherwise, we need to reframe it. How to reframe it? Either we need to remove one or we need to add. So remove and adding is the only strategy. I took around 5 times for my pilot study to compile it, because again you have to collect from 10 people. Okay, that is the way we need to do research. So once it is there, in here what is happening is individual item score also is available. For example, here you see individual item score. You can see here. For example, what it is mentioned is here.
Sir,
if you delete.
Excuse me, sir. The screen is not visible, sir.
Oh God, 1 second. Madam, just instruct me because I'm unable to see your.
Sure, sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I think now it is visible, right?
Yes, sir. Now output screen is visible.
Okay, okay. I'll repeat again that. So this is 10, and here you can see this reliability. See, if you are seeing in mobile, just zoom it, you can see it. So number of item is 15, and is 0.567, 56%. So that means that whether it is reliable. But in the international arena, they say 0.7, above 0.7 is reliable. But what do you call us nowadays? People are accepting for above 50%. We always have now in management or commerce, above 50% is acceptable. So if you want to increase this, what you have to do is either you have to remove or add. For example, here you can see correlate item to this is individual score. Individually, this affectionate variable has 0.422. It is influencing on the scale. For example, if this child and I always seem to be trusting each other, you see 0.907. That trust becomes 0.907. It is highly reliable. So reliable and non-reliable we can find out here. But what we can do is, rather than looking into that, see the last column, Cronbach-Alpha, if item deleted. Here I have only 0.56. Here you can see if anything is more than 0.56, you see 0.76, 0.58, 0.649. So this is the 0.79, 0.679. So if I delete this statement, my entire instrument will become 14 statement and this will become 0.679. It is better instrument than what we have. But what is more important is read this statement. This child easily becomes active in my presence and initiation. Now you see, can I delete this? If I delete this statement, my instrument will improve this much. But I can't, because this child easily becomes active in my presence and initiation. That means this is a more important construct that we need to have. In such cases, as a researcher, we can decide. So either we can delete, we can add one, or we can retain if you are able to justify it. So with this note, reliability can be checked. Once your reliability is checked, validity is checked, reliability is checked, you can go for data collection. Then you can go for data collection. Once your data is collected, okay, once you see this, you can mention only in one word in methodology. Your instrument, your data collection tool has this many instruments, and this instrument records the Cronbach-Alpha of this much, which means that the scale is reliable. That one line only, for that you are doing all those. Okay, so then we'll move on to understanding the bigger one. So after making it, okay, yeah. So I'm sharing the another file. I think, madam, is it visible
Yes,
now?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is after doing that, what do you call it as pilot study, we collected it and we did validity analysis before going for a pilot study. After collecting it, we did reliability analysis. Now we have got the original data, in the sense like after completing the entire study. Now you can see here, same 24 variables are there. But if you see here, I have collected from 30 respondents. Got it? Now it is a final study. Now how to do that? How to do the analysis out of it? So we need to go for percentage analysis. The first and foremost thing what we can do is percentage analysis and mean score analysis with the scaled data and unscaled data. Okay. So if you go with this, how to do that? So I'm going to do, for example, first 9, we need to go for percentage analysis. Next 15, we need to do mean score analysis. I'll show you the percentage analysis. Analyze, descriptive statistics, frequency. And if you move, you have to move only these 9 items, not all the items. 9 items to the pan, and then I can click it. I want percentage, right? So I want percentage and ultimately it will lead to percentage. And if you want a chart, you can give any chart. Okay. So I want a percentage analysis, right? Display frequency tables, and I want a chart. I'm giving it. Again, I need to share the output. I know it. Yeah, I'm sharing, madam.
Okay, okay.
So now you see.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Frequency table, age group, 3 age groups, frequencies, and 16.7%, 70%, 13.3% above 40. So like this, in one shot, You can make percentage analysis for all variables, and you can have a chart also. You can have a chart simultaneously. Yeah, you see here age. So 20 to 40 years among these 30, 40 is the highest. And now we need to go for mean score analysis. We need to go for mean score analysis. So if you want to go for mean score analysis, then what is the procedure? Now I have done unscaled data percentage analysis, right? This is a preliminary analysis. Then mean score analysis, please go to descriptive statistics, frequency, you have to reset it, and I want only mean score for this 15 variables which we have, which I want to know which one is influencing. So I have select and move it. So when you go for statistics, there is one thing called as mean here, central tendency, mean. If you click mean, continue, then if you give OK, then you will get the result. Yeah, now it is visible. So you see here, first statement 4.20, second statement 3.50, third statement, is it visible, madam? 3.43, fifth
Yes,
statement 3.30. Like this, you'll be getting the statements. So what we have to do is we have to go to the questionnaire, and the right side you open two columns. In one column you write 15 mean score, and based on that mean score, the highest mean score will be 1, the lowest mean score will be 15. Okay, so in this case, if you look in, I think the highest mean score is 4.20. So that means that out of that 15 variables, affectionate, that first variable is influencing. That is influencing the student-teacher relationship. That means student-teacher relationship will be influenced by the affectionate, the level of affectionate we maintain with the students. This interpretation we have to write based on this. You got it clear? Now we'll move on to hypothesis testing. In hypothesis testing, we need to have two, right? One will take the gender, and the first one variable, affectionate. Let us understand that whether the gender and the affectionate has the association. So how to build the hypothesis? There is no significant association between gender and the affectionate, that research variable affectionate. So I will show you how to do that. So for that, we need to have a statistical tool called as chi-square. So if you do chi-square, you can find out whether there is any significant association between two variables. That is, one is gender, the other one is affectionate. Can you do that and show you? Okay. So now we have to go for the data. So now we are doing hypothesis testing with the help of chi-square. Okay, madam?
Okay, sir.
Right.
You can look at it.
Right. Analyze. Descriptive. The path is descriptive statistics. Cross tabs. Because in our learning, you do understand. Observed, frequency, observed and expected. We normally have a cross tab, right? Two variables, cross tab. So once you go for a cross tab, you can put anything on any rows or columns. For example, we want to take sex, that is gender, on the row, and the variable one, that is affectionate, right, on the thing. Then if you go ahead with that, go to the statistics, please click chi-square. Formula is ready now, data is ready, formula is ready, continue, then give OK. Then you will get an output. Okay, then you will get an output. Once you get an output, you can see here, right? So 30, you can see here this chi-square test. Pearson's chi-square test shows the significant value. This is called as p-value, that is assumption of significance, that is 0.659. What it means, we need to interpret now whether there is an association or not. So by looking into this, what we have to decide is 5% level of significance whether there is an association. Then 5% means if you convert into numerical 0.05, 0.05. If anything is less than 0.05, it is significant. If this p-value is more than 0.05, it is not significant. So here 0.659 is more than 0.05. So that means that it is not significant. What it means, there is no association between gender and affection. What we can come to a conclusion, if you are a male or a female, you will show there is no difference in showing the association, because we have a myth, no, female show more affectionate on students than male. That is not. Whether it is a male or a female, both show there is a, what you call as, there is no thing on that. They can be in any form. There is no association between the gender and the affectionate. So that conclusion we can come. I'll give an example. You have a glass of water. If you pour the water, if anything is extra, it will spill out. So 0.05 is the 5% level. 1% level, 0.01. So if anything is spilling, if it is anything extra more than 0.05, then it is not significant. There is no, according to our result, there is no significant association between gender and what you call as the affection. So it doesn't mind. So anybody can give any kind of affection. That is what it is, right? So we got it. Now we learn one more hypothesis testing with the differences, and we can complete. Okay. We'll move on to learning the t-test or f-test. So how to do t-test? I told you that with the same help of gender to male and female, we'll find out whether the male and female have any differences in having on the affection of the students. For that, analyze. See, chi-square works on frequency. The t-test and f-test differential statistics works on means. So go to the mean and go for independent sample test. So here the test variable is your affectionate. Your grouping variable is gender, age. So when you want to group it, now you have to see group 1 and group 2. Only there are two groups, no, male and female. Continue. Then if you give OK, you'll get an output. In that you can see. One second. T output. Yeah. So you can see the t-test result.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And here you can see that you should not see Levin's test for equality of variance. We are not seeing the variance. We are testing on the t-test for equality of means. So in that, if you look in, there is a significant value. You can see here significant value 0.670. That means that it is not, there is no significant difference between male and female in showing the, so it is what it called as 0.05. So there is not significant. So there is no significant between differences between male and female in showing the affectionate. So both the results are correlating now. So that means male and female, they don't show any differences in showing a relationship. So this is how we can find out the, what you call it as, the test the hypothesis. One more, ANOVA, because if it is only 2 male and female, if it is 3, then we have to go for ANOVA. We'll take age group and check out the what you call as the objectives. Okay. So when you go for the data, I'm showing how to do ANOVA now. We'll complete within a few minutes. So analyze, compare means when you go for ANOVA, then dependent, which is dependent? The affectionate. Affectionate is different. And we will take the factor, that means age group, because 3, if sex is 2, so age group we will take it. Then what we will do is, we will just do one more thing. you go to options and select descriptives, because if there is significant, we want to know which group is making the difference. Okay, so give OK. Then we'll have results. Yeah, we have results. So now you see ANOVA.
Yes, sir.
And you see the significant value 0.733. What it means, compare with the 5% level of significance 0.05. It is above the glass, right? It is more than the 0.0. This p value is more than the level of significance, that is 0.05. That means it is not significant. So there is no significant differences between male and female, sorry, below the age groups, 3 age groups on the affectionate. That means what we understand, it doesn't mean any age group people are showing the same kind of affection. So this is what hypothesis testing can be done. So with this help, I'm moving on to the further discussion. Coming back to your presentations, I think presentation is viewable, madam, now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, moving on that. So with the help of SPSS, with the want of time, we have just completed univariate data analytics, that is percentage analysis for unscaled data, and mean score analysis and ranking for scaled data. We have learned it. And the next thing which we did is bivariate data analytics, that is chi-square test for checking out the association between two variables. We have taken age and the affection, and we have did t-test and ANOVA, that is hypothesis was tested to test the differences between groups on a variable. And we have done it for multivariate data analytics, like factor analysis, cluster analysis, multiple regression analysis, SEM, neural network analysis. We need more time to work on. And any research, I have given an eye opener for you, hope so. And if you learn SPSS, we can do wonders. With the help of factor analysis, we can learn what you call it as identify that 15 variables are there. Now we can minimize to 3 or 4 factors. So we can come out and say that my research has found out one factor. For example, in my PhD, I have found one new factor, okay, with the help of factor analysis, and which was appreciated in one of the experts, a logistician from UK, in my LinkedIn, that they were saying that it is one of the innovative factor which you have found out and which you have published. So that kind of innovation contribution we need to make it. So if you want to use multivariate data analytics, we can have a separate session when we can learn. It's quite easy. Learning data analytics is quite easy, because I was not a person who learned the mathematics, who liked mathematics. Today, without numbers, we cannot live. So with this note, I'll move on. So one more thing, as director was saying that one person was asking, sir, how to identify the research title for publication? In my opinion, doing research is fun. Maybe this methodology you can adopt. This is found by Dr. Vam, fun approach for social science research. And the fun refers to, from the back, from the reverse, N refers to novelty. Whatever title you are taking, whatever topic or issue, research issue you are taking for publication, it should be novel. Make sure that nobody has done before. And it should be useful. The second one is useful. It should be useful for you to publish. It should be useful to the policymakers. It should be useful to the society. That utility should be there. And number 3 is feasibility. That it should be resources. You need to get adequate resources. You need to get adequate time. You need to have adequate cost, adequate money. Then only you can do it. So if you apply this Dr. Vam's fun approach in the beginning itself, in the planning period itself, if you are willing to publish a research article, whenever you find a research issue, see whether it is novel, whether it will be useful, whether it will be feasible. You can do it. If you have that, if you have all green signal, then you can start working on. And this model is created by Dr. Vam. Nobody is there. Dr. Vam is myself, Dr. V. Arulmurugan. So it is what innovation we need to think of. And maybe to sum up, all the best to all the faculty members to publish more. And in my opinion, to publish, you should be a scientific researcher and a data analyst by yourself. And we need some skills. So I have identified top 10 skills which can help you. One is you need to know typing and formatting by yourself. You need to know online material collection, because you need to know how to collect materials from different sources. Then data collection and analysis that you need to learn. You need to match the conceptual thinking and statistical significance. Just now I was telling you, no, your objective or statistical tool should match. You should know how to draft and proofreading. Sir was talking about more on it. And logical thinking and doing is more important. Multitasking. The another important thing is that you have to simultaneously collect data, analyze, drafting, and understanding with the publisher, or understanding with the research supervisor, or understanding with your co-authors are more important. And please get help from others. That is more important. Within 2 minutes, I will stop. My time is on. So get help from others, but please do it by yourself. So I have only limited articles, but I have made it what you call as notable in the research arena. And to conclude, please, right tool for right data. You have a data, you have a tool. Don't use the data tool for whatever data you have. Just now I told you whether percentage analysis, mean score analysis, ranking, chi-square test, t-test, then what do you call it as the f-test, cluster analysis, factor analysis, reliability analysis, multiple regression analysis, neural network analysis, SEM, where to use, when to use. So apply the tools based on the need, not as compulsion. Don't use your tool and compress your paper. It is invalid. Research never ends. Research has to end. Complete your research, submit your article. So please remember Dr. Ram's fun approach for scientific research, and prepare empirical research article and start publishing it. So with this note, thanks a lot to the entire organizing team. I think I'm on time.
Yes.
So 1:15 almost. So thanks a lot to Deepika madam. Thanks a lot to the director sir, Satya Prasad sir, and thanks a lot to the madam who has coordinated my presentation on disability. Thanks a lot, madam, and thanks a lot to all the audience across nation and even from other countries, because it is in YouTube live. We cannot restrict as a national level. If you go for a YouTube live, you can always say that it is an international today. So thanks a lot for the international audience, and some of my well-wishers are there in the the participation. Thanks a lot to the learned audience, and I personally thank Dr. Ramakrishna, who is a good friend of mine, who is a linking pin for this academic deliberation. So with this note, thanks a lot for my opportunities. If you have any queries, I'm here to answer.
Thanks a lot, sir, for enriching our knowledge on practical aspects of research by using SPSS software. Thanks, sir. Now it's time for question and answer. I invite Professor Deepika to moderate the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Anusha. As I said in an earlier session, the session may not feel completed without answering all your doubts. It's a time to clear your queries. So here is a first question to you, sir, that is from Nalina, Miss Nalina T.J. She would like to know about a little tricks and ideas about a plagiarism check.
Okay. I think Sir also can answer it, but still. Madam, as far as plagiarism is concerned, it is very simple. Like if we are going to copy anybody's idea, anybody's writing, anybody's models as it is, and if you are going to replicate in your publication, then it becomes plagiarism. Very simple. Copying and pasting of others' ideas and knowledge. It is what is called as plagiarism today. And how to overcome plagiarism is very simple. Already the notification has given. You can take 30 words from any researcher's publication, and you can use it as such as, and you should acknowledge them. That is more important. Once you acknowledge them. In some cases, if you are going to use models, questionnaires or something, you can mail the author, get their permission and acknowledgement, and then you can use it, whereby you can overcome plagiarism. And one more thing, in the simplest way, I'll tell you, read the article, don't copy the words. Understand yourself and try to express in your words, not from one single idea, from 5 or 6 in the same idea, and you can say that so and so has said this and it is my opinion. If you draft yourself, then you can be away from plagiarism.